Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Britain F1. If you are new here and you like the look of this channel, then please hit the subscribe button down below, and if you do like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. So much like the Ferrari at the beginning of the 21st century, Mercedes have been the most dominant within Formula 1, with them winning 7 World Constructors titles and winning 5 titles with Lewis Hamilton. Now, the only man who has been able to break the chain reaction of the mighty Lewis Hamilton has been Nico Rosberg, but sadly with his retirement in 2016, no one has been able to catch the mighty Lewis. So the question I want to ask today is, does Valtteri Bottas need to be more aggressive like Nico Rosberg to win a world title? Now, when Valtteri Bottas joined the team, he has always lived in the shadow of Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, since Valtteri Bottas and when Nico Rosberg left the sport, has been absolutely dominant. Bottas could never really take the fight to Lewis Hamilton compared to how Nico Rosberg did it. Nico Rosberg was very mindful, played a lot of games on Lewis. It was a very more intense environment at Mercedes than what we see it now. Mercedes now seems like a very happy team. Nothing could ever really upset them, to be honest, but when Nico Rosberg was there was a lot of tension, and Toto Wolff did have his hands full with managing them too. However, with Bottas there within the last 4 years, I don't think him and Lewis have ever had a disagreement or had a fight about anything. They've always respected each other, and I think Valtteri has always accepted the fact that he is the number 2 driver. With that being said, he does get branded a lot as the modern day Rubens Barrichello, who famously lived in the shadow of Michael Schumacher at Ferrari. Now, Toto Wolff in the past has also described Valtteri Bottas as a sensational wingman, which tells you in itself how Valtteri is seen at Mercedes. He is seen definitely as that number 2 driver to help and support Lewis and get the 1-2 positions every year. So for me, to have your team principal say you're a sensational wingman must be a kick in the stomach, to be honest. And if you were a world championship driven driver, you would not accept that. Now, for Valtteri, he might be happy being the number 2 driver. He has a lot of respect towards the team and towards Lewis, which is really nice to see. However, for me personally, that isn't a world championship driver. You have the likes of Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, even Charles Leclerc, even Max Verstappen. They don't take team orders to sit behind their teammate. And famously in Germany 2018, Valtteri Bottas was catching Lewis Hamilton, but the radio message came where Valtteri Bottas was told to stay behind Lewis and let Lewis take the win. For me, again, that is not how a champion would be. They would ignore them team orders and go for what they believe is best. We saw this recently with Max Verstappen in Silverstone, where he was obviously catching the Mercedes, but his team said no, stay behind. He was like, no, I'm not driving like my grandma or something, just to manage my tyres. He was like, this is the only opportunity I'm going to get, I'm going to take it. And for me, that is a world champion driver. They go, they deliver. And I just don't get that vibe with Valtteri Bottas. I think he's too soft. I don't know if I'm being a bit harsh saying that on Valtteri Bottas, because I do really think he is a talented driver. But the reason why I am suggesting this question is because recently in the season this year, I've been really disappointed with Valtteri Bottas. He started off the season really well. I think he got pole and then he won the race, which was really strong. And I think Lewis ended up finishing 4th because he had a penalty. And the first race for Lewis was not very good, to be honest. So that really should have spurred Valtteri and motivated him to really push for the title this year, but in actual fact it's kind of had the opposite effect. I think it's made Lewis more dominant. In recent races I've been really let down by Valtteri's performance. I'm going to take the Spanish Grand Prix as an example for this season. So to be fair, he had a really terrible start, and I think that just really affected him throughout the race. He spent 5 laps behind Lance Stroll, which again affected his strategy and everything like that. But for me personally, knowing how dominant the Mercedes is, he should have been able to breeze past Lance Stroll, and he couldn't. And I've found that a lot with Valtteri. He's not aggressive enough on the overtakes, and later in the race he wasn't catching Max Verstappen, and everyone knew the Mercedes had the pace because of the lap times and how well Lewis was doing. He just couldn't close the gap to Max, which we have seen Valtteri do in the past, but I think more than ever it really matters this year because Max is actually beating him in the championship. So Valtteri doesn't only have to worry about Lewis, he has to worry about Max, which is quite something because that Mercedes is by far the most dominant on that grid, and to let a Red Bull slip in there and overtake you in the championship is quite shocking, really. Now don't get me wrong, I really think Valtteri is a great driver. He's had some amazing races, and for me I think his qualifying, his 1 lap pace is a lot better than his racecraft, and I think that's where it's been letting him down this year. He's been really great in qualifying, but when it comes to races he hasn't been as good, and he's just been kind of overtaken by Max and Lewis. And I think this season we are really seeing how dominant and amazing Max is. He's really proving his worth, and previously we might not have seen that because we've always had the 1-2 Mercedes, but I think something isn't working for Valtteri at the minute. He doesn't seem hooked up, he seems really deflated already. I mean, we've only had a few races and the championship is just slipping through his fingers, which is a real big shame because obviously Valtteri would have only been Lewis's massive threat, but he cannot take it to Lewis. So this is why I'm asking the question, does Valtteri Bottas need to be more like Nico Rosberg? Now this weekend at the Spanish Grand Prix, Nico Rosberg was a pundit for Sky F1 and he was actually very insightful. I really enjoyed his commentary and how he was talking about the drivers. It was really great. And he spoke a lot about Valtteri, about what he should be doing to really challenge and push Lewis. And he was saying he needs to be getting into his head, having these mind games. And to be honest, I kind of agree. I feel like the only way you're going to take down the mighty Lewis at the minute is to play games with him. And he said at one point, which I thought was quite funny, he should be outside his motorhome cooking like loads of burgers, because obviously Lewis is a vegan. So it's just little things like that, whereas Valtteri is just so laid back, and I think he's very laid back in his racing. I mean, he can be aggressive when he wants to be, but it's not all the time, and I think this is how the championships are just slipping away from him year by year. Obviously every F1 driver wants to be a world champion, but I kind of think Bottas's time has kind of passed. Now with Nico Rosberg, he knew the only way he could break the mighty Lewis was to play mind games with him, and you know, everyone could see it. Everyone knew exactly what Rosberg was doing, and I'm sure you all remember the famous Monaco Grand Prix qualifying where Nico Rosberg ran it into the first wall to get a yellow flag or a red flag, I can't remember what happened, but that affected Lewis's qualifying, so I think he started behind Nico Rosberg. So it was just little things like that that would start to play into Rosberg's hands. Now, Valtteri has been Lewis's teammate for about 4 years now, and we have never seen anything like that. I mean, I'm not saying that every driver has to be playing mind games, but you know, when you're in the championship winning car and you're not really challenging your teammate who is a world-class driver, you need to start thinking outside the box to really get them results. Okay, so I'm going to leave that video there. Let me know your guys' thoughts on how you feel about Bottas. Do you think he needs to be more aggressive enough, or do you think he's doing a pretty good job at the minute? Let me know in the comments and I'll see if I agree with you. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.